I never thought I'd be the one packing a bag just to prove a point, but that's exactly what I did. My name's Lena, and after 6 years of marriage to Ethan, I hit a breaking point I didn't even see coming. Ethan wasn't cruel, just consistent, predictable. The kind of man everyone called safe. But safe had slowly turned into silent, into distant, into invisible. He'd bury himself in work while dinner went cold, my voice fading into the background like static. Somewhere along the line, I stopped feeling like a wife and started feeling like furniture, something always there, never noticed. I told myself all marriages hit a quiet phase. But one night, I came downstairs wearing a new dress, one I'd bought hoping he'd finally see me again. He didn't even look up. Just said, "You'll catch a cold in that," and kept typing. That was the night something inside me cracked. I wanted him to miss me, to realize comfort doesn't mean care. So the next morning, while he was at work, I packed a small suitcase, left a note on the counter, and drove to my sister's cabin 3 hours away. The note was simple. "Ethan, I need space. Maybe then you'll realize I'm not invisible." No big goodbye. No texts. Just silence. At first, it felt freeing. My phone buzzed constantly, worried messages that turned to confusion, then frustration. I ignored them all. I hiked. I read. I drank wine to self-respect. But by the 5th day, that freedom started to ache. The quiet I'd begged for felt too empty. I missed the smell of his coffee, the hum of him showering, even the sound of his typing. Still, I told myself it was working. He'd miss me, realize my worth. And when I returned, we'd start again. 10 days later, I drove home, heart pounding with hope. The house looked the same, but something felt off. The note I'd left was still on the counter, but beside it lay another, folded neatly, my name in his handwriting. "Lena. I hope this time apart helps you find what you're looking for. I love you, but I won't chase you anymore. You wanted space. I'm giving it to you. Take care. E." My stomach dropped. His shoes, gone. His jacket. Even the framed wedding photo by the entryway. I called his phone. Straight to voicemail. Half the closet empty. It was like he'd vanished into the silence I'd created. Panic hit like a wave. This wasn't the lesson I meant to teach. I sank onto the bed, clutching his letter, and cried not out of anger, but fear. Fear that I'd gone too far. That night, I scrolled through old photos. Our road trips. Our laughter. His crooked smile. And I finally saw what I'd ignored. Maybe I wasn't invisible because of him. Maybe I'd stopped showing up to be seen. The next morning, I went to his office. His assistant said he'd taken a leave of absence. No address. No details. Just, gone. I drove home feeling smaller with every mile. I tried to prove love needed effort from both sides, but maybe I'd burned the bridge entirely. Then I noticed an envelope under the door. My name. His handwriting. Inside was a small key and a note. "Lena. You once said you felt invisible. I'm sorry it took this for you to see how much space you fill in my life. I'm not angry. I just need time to understand how we got here and if we can find our way back. The key is for the cabin by the lake. You said it was your safe place. Maybe now it can be ours, if you still want that. E." I stared at the key in my hand. The cabin by the lake. Our old escape. The thought that he'd remembered pulled something deep inside me loose. I didn't even hesitate. I grabbed my coat, tossed the letter in my bag, and drove. The road blurred beneath grey skies. Every mile replayed the months we'd lost, the nights he reached out and I pulled away, the quiet moments I'd mistaken for indifference. By the time I reached the cabin, dusk had fallen. The porch light glowed. My heart pounded as I turned the key. The air smelled like pine and smoke. The fireplace flickered. 2 mugs sat on the table, one steaming, one half empty. And then I saw him. Ethan, standing by the window, staring out at the lake. When he turned, his eyes weren't angry. Just tired. "Hi," I whispered. "You came?" he asked softly. I nodded. "I shouldn't have left like that." He sighed. "I get why you did. I just wish you'd talk to me instead of trying to teach me a lesson. The words hurt because they were true. I turned my loneliness into punishment. I thought if I disappeared, you'd realize what you had, I said. But maybe I'm the one who forgot. He looked at me for a long moment, then said quietly, "You weren't invisible, Lena. You just stopped standing where I could see you." We sat by the fire that night in silence, not heavy, just honest. I told him everything, how unwanted I'd felt, how walking away seemed like the only way to be noticed. He listened. When I finished, he said, "I thought I was giving you peace by not pushing. Turns out I was giving you distance." That hit harder than anything. Because love doesn't die from betrayal, it fades from neglect. We didn't fix everything that night. But we decided to start. To talk. To listen. To not let the silence grow louder than the love. Weeks passed. The cabin became our reset. We cooked together again, laughed again. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. One morning, as the sun spilled gold across the lake, Ethan turned to me. "You know," he said, "I think we both learned something." I smiled. "Yeah. What's that?" He paused, then said, "That love isn't a lesson to teach, it's a language you forget how to speak when you stop using it." That line stuck with me. Because the lesson I thought I was teaching him was really mine. Now, whenever I feel the quiet creeping in, I remember the woman who drove away to feel seen only to learn that visibility starts within. You can't demand connection while staying hidden from it. Sometimes the silence you create to be missed becomes the distance you can't cross back over. I was lucky ours wasn't permanent. Because love, real love, isn't about who leaves, it's about who comes back, sits by the fire, and starts the conversation again. And that's what I learned when the silence finally spoke back.